Hello and welcome to Relatable Code. In this video, we're going to talk about implicit intents in Android. So let's get started. We have previously worked with intents in Android to navigate from one activity to another, like this basically. You would specify the intent and the current activity that you're in and the target activity that you want to navigate to, basically. And that's called an explicit intent because you're explicitly specifying the activity or the service in that manner that you want to start. Okay, but implicit intents are different. They don't specify the component that you want to work with. Instead, they specify an action that you want to take, and they leave that action for another application to handle. We will see how that happens shortly. Let's take a small example where we want to open a simple web page in our application. So if we go to your activity underscore main.xml file, you will find that we have three buttons that we can work with. Okay, I created three buttons. The first button will have an ID of btn underscore open underscore URL, and the text of that button will be open URL, just like that. And to work with this button, we will navigate back to our main activity.kotlin file. We will no longer need that line of code. And now we want to attach an onClick listener to that button. We can do that with binding.btn open URL.set onClick listener. When we click on that button, we want to open the web page for google.com. Okay, and we're going to do that with an implicit intent in this case. So here we can write val web view intent equals to intent, open your parentheses. And here you can see you have multiple suggestions. We used to work with the package context and the class case for the intent, but we can now work with actions as well. Okay, and we have some predefined actions in Android that we can work with. The action that we need right now is intent.action underscore view. Okay, that basically prompts Android to open a web view for your web page to view. Okay, and after that, you need the actual URL of the page that you want to view. And with respect to implicit intents, that's classified as data. Okay, and to supply any type of data to an implicit intent, you need something called a URI, which is a unique resource identifier. Creating one is very easy. We're going to do it like this. Val web URI equals to, and currently we have the string of the web page, which is google.com. To convert a string to a URI that we can use to supply this data, we can write URI.parse https / and pass the basically domain of google.com. Okay, that's our website. And now we want to assign this URI to that intent so that we can supply it as data. And the way we can do that is with WebViewIntent.data equals to WebURI. It's that simple. Okay. And after that, we're going to call start activity for our WebViewIntent. Okay. Run your application. That's our emulator. Click on open URL. And there you have google.com. And that's how you create an implicit intent in Android. Okay. Now, you might ask, why do implicit intents require URI to parse their data? I'm going to show you why with our second example, which is the dial example. Okay. So let's suppose after clicking on that button, we want to open our phone's dialer, okay, with a certain number pre-built into that dialer. And we're going to see how that works, basically. It's very straightforward to implement. So write binding.btn dial.set onClick listener. We're going to create a new intent for this dial. We can do it with val dial intent equals to intent, and this action will be intent dot action dial, just like that. Okay, and now we're going to create a dial URI, which is going to be equal to URI dot parse, and inside here we're basically going to supply the mobile number, which will be entered in that screen, and we can do that with writing tal column and the mobile number after that, like this, for example, 97155. I think that should be correct for a UAE number. Now assign that URI to our intent with dial intent.data equals to dial URI, and then start activity for our dial intent. Run your application again. And now click on the dial button. Our dialer will be opened and that number will be dialed in, basically. And how that happened was with the help of our URI, because our URI recognized that when the string began with tal and column, this was going to be a number which will be supplied to the dialer in this case. Okay, and that's why we use URIs. They are like smart components which will be supplied as data to our implicit intents. Okay, and that's how you open a dialer with a number pre-dialed. Okay, now let's try to share a message by our application. In our activity main XML, we have a third button, and that's send text, basically. So go back to your main activity.kotlin file, and underneath that code, write btn send text.set onClick listener. This will also be an implicit intent, so let's write that with send text intent equals to intent, and this action will be intent dot action send. Okay, we're trying to send this text from our application, and there's something that we need to pay attention to here, that the text that we're trying to send should only be a text and nothing else. And to do something like that, we can restrict the type of data which will be sent by this intent. We can do that with send text intent dot type equals to, in our case, we have to supply a MIME type. And one MIME type that we can use is text plain. Okay. And MIME types are very important in Android, especially when you're dealing with implicit intents, because they specify the type of data that you're dealing with. Okay. And there's lots of different MIME types that you can check. For example, you have MIME types for texts. The one we used was text plain, for just a simple plain text. You have something for HTML text, for CSS texts. You have some MIME types for images, for audio files, for video files. Okay. There's lots of MIME files or MIME types that you can deal with. For our case, we just want to use the text plain MIME type. Okay. And after that, we want to specify a certain text to be predefined if you want, when we want to share that text with another application. Okay, and we can do that right here with send text intent dot put extra intent dot extra underscore text. I believe that's it. And this is our text to share. Okay, and underneath that, I think we're done for now. So let's write start activity, send text intent. Now run your application and click on the send text button right there. Okay, and as you can see, this intent found several applications which can handle it, which is why you're seeing this basically. You have the option to share your text through the nearby share, through the messages, through Gmail, through Bluetooth, through the Drive application itself. And that's what happens in a lot of cases, basically. Okay, and that's the default behavior of the Android operating system. You can modify this when you have several applications which may deal with your intent by creating a chooser. Okay, and you can create a chooser like this, basically. Start activity intent dot create chooser for our send text intent, and we can write a text like, for example, share bio. Comment out that previous start activity line of code. Rerun your application. Okay, rerun it again. And now you have that send text button. If you click on that, you now see a chooser. Okay, this is our text to share, which we specified in that extra text. And here you can see something that's predefined if you want for this case, because now you can see your applications right here and the text itself. Okay, and that's basically the chooser in Android. So how did that work behind the scenes? How did I find multiple applications which can handle my action, which was in my case action send? Well, I created another Android application to showcase something that you should know. So let's navigate to that other application. Here you can see it's just a normal application with an activity main. But inside my manifest, as you can see, we have that normal intent filter, which you can find in any application, including our current application. It looks like that, basically, which means that this intent filter specifies that this main activity is the main activity of my application, or the launcher activity, which will be the starting destination after I run my application. Okay, and in that second application, the same thing was the case. We had a main activity, and that's the intent filter for that activity. Okay, but the thing is, you can specify multiple intent filters for the same activity. And in this case, I specified another intent filter so that I can send some data to this application. Okay, so what the intent filter basically does here is filter the intents that can be handled by this application and this activity in precise. Okay, so it's telling us that this main activity can handle an intent that has an action equal to action view with this data, if you want, having a scheme of app B and a host of open. I'm going to show you how that looks like in the URL shortly. And here you can also see you have something called category, which basically just provides some extra information about your action. Okay, we have an action view in our case, and the category was default browsable, which means that you can say that this application will be opened almost like a web view and the other application, which we're going to launch right now. Okay, so remember, we have a scheme of app B and a host of open. Okay, that's in our navigation B application. So get back to your main application right there. In the activity underscore main.xml, I just created a new button. I gave it an ID of btn open app and a text of open app. That's all I did for that button. And now we're going to use that button to navigate from this application to the other application. Okay, so go to your main activity right there, and beneath that onClick listener, you will write binding dot open app dot set onClick listener. Okay, and now we just need an intent that the other application can process, basically. Okay, so we need an intent that has action view and this data. Let's see how we can do that. Go back to your main application and write val open app intent equals to intent intent.action view, and you can pass the URL after that, or you can just pass it right there inside the parentheses. That's basically the same, okay? Because if you hover over your intent, it will not fetch your documentation. There you have it. You have a string action and a URI that you can pass directly into its constructor. Okay, so inside URI.parse, we need to pass this data, app B and host open. Okay, let's get back to our application and write app B column / open. After that, just write start activity, open app intent, and run your application. And that's our application. Here we have our open app button. Let's click on that, and we opened application B from this application. We managed to do that using that intent, basically. I just specified an action that I want to be handled, and another application just happened to know how to handle that intent. Okay, and that's how you open another application through an implicit intent in Android. Okay, if you find my type of content to be relatable, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for future content, and I'll see you in the next video.